Saved from being eaten by a shark by a pro surfer. Be careful out there. There are sharks. I wish I heeded that warning, but instead I was now inches away from a shark. Panic pulled through my body as the shark opened its giant maws, ready to devour me. No, this wasn't how it was going to happen. I refused to believe so. I tried to swim away, but the shark drew closer. It had it out for me, ready to take a bite. Did it smell blood? Was I bleeding? I didn't think so, but there was no time to check. The beach was still far away, and exhaustion overwhelmed every fiber of my body. Just as it opened its jaws, ready to sink in and eat me alive, I didn't want to die. I still had so much to live for. I just got this new job and... I've got you! That voice! I recognized it from somewhere, but the shock of the moment overloaded my senses. The person housed me onto their surfboard and rode out the wave, eventually making their way to the shore. When we stopped on the sandy beach, I opened my eyes, completely shocked at what transpired. I'm alive? I muttered out of the confusion and panic of the whole situation. Yes. I'm surprised you, of all people, went out there. I looked to my left, and for a moment, time stopped. No way. It was Zale Kender, one of the top surfers in the world. And my ex-boyfriend. We looked at each other for what felt like hours. Memories of past emotions overwhelmed me. The kisses we shared the night he took my virginity and the night he left. He told me he was going to go pro, and we had a huge argument. Words were exchanged, and I told him I never wanted to see him again. That was 5 years ago. We parted ways and I channeled my anger into my career, finally nabbing a new position in management. I was right under the head boss, Martin, and finally made a name for myself in software development. Zale went on to go pro and we lost touch. Now here we were, in the present, and already I felt a conflict of emotions. Part of me was relieved that I was alive, but the reminders of the words said and the anger I felt came crashing back. I stood up and looked at Zale. Thank you for saving me. No problem. I'd stay out of that part of the beach since you're a novice surfer. Ouch. He was right, though. I was a novice surfer with barely any experience. I will. Thanks. No problem. The sounds of screams from others echoed behind us. I turned, seeing a woman and her daughters. Can we get your autograph, Zale? Oh my gosh, it's Zale! They chirped about. I looked at him and he shrugged. Sorry, man. Duty calls. I know. I'll see you around, I said. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I rushed away from the beach and went back to the hotel. For the rest of the night, I tried to forget, but it was impossible. Memories of the good things that happened, along with the bad, lingered in every corner of my thoughts. I hoped that one day we would meet again and work things out. I did not imagine it would be this soon, though I doubted anything would come of it. He had his life and I had mine. The next day, I woke up. Yesterday afternoon's memories are nothing more than a haze. I got ready and then made my way down to get some breakfast. I would be here for another week since the boss gave me this time off, provided I came back and worked. I needed a vacation, especially after the events coming up next quarter. I made my way to the surf shop in hopes of getting another board. When I got there, Zale glanced at me, those brown eyes wide, almost sparkling with the sunlight pouring in. He was still as attractive as ever, maybe even more attractive. He was still muscular and lean, but also had more definition than before. Zale, I finally spat out. Hey, how are you doing? He asked, taking a step toward me. Good, I didn't know you'd be here. He chuckled. I work here, silly. I have to have something to do to keep me off the beach and away from the fangirls. Still winning the hearts of ladies, I see, I said with a sort of unnoticed bite. Naturally. And you're still jealous, aren't you? Yeah, maybe a little. Zale was bisexual and a bit of a flirt. It was part of why we had arguments in our relationship. Now looking at that, I wondered if maybe I overreacted. So, what are you looking for? He asked, breaking my chain of thoughts. Oh, just a board, I said, trying to sound as casual as I could. You're not going into those shark-infested waters again, right? The lifeguard told me that you totally ignored their warnings. Not like I knew, I muttered, feeling embarrassed as Zale continued to grill me for my mistake. It wasn't like I could predict it. Zale laughed. Dev, you're still uptight. I was joking. He stepped forward and rested his hand on my shoulder. Sparks flew between us. Tell you what, I'm about done with this shift. Why don't we go surfing together? I stood there, completely taken aback that he, of all people, would do that. I nodded. "I'd like that." "Then it's a date," he winked. The word date sent warm, fuzzy feelings through me. We went out to the waters. Zale guided me towards a part of the beach closer to people, but not where they swam. "This area is great for waves." "Cool." I got on the surfboard and started to paddle. As I did, Zale spoke. "Try to adjust your body so it's more on the board, like this." He moved his chest and I stared, dry mouthed at the man as he put himself on the board. I swear, Zale's looks might be the death of me. "You okay, Devin?" "Yeah, I'm good," I stammered as I got on the board. Why was I so hung up on Zale like this? Sure, he was still incredibly hot, but there was no way anything like this would work out. I had to go back to reality eventually. Did I want to, though? I wasn't sure about that. I got on the surfboard and Zale taught me how to ride the waves. Our bodies got closer, and whenever Zale touched me, I leaned into the touch. Sunset lingered over the horizon as we went to the beach. Zale and I looked at each other and I smiled. "So you're not just all talk?" "Course not, I'm a pro." "But you're not half bad either," he said with a chuckle. "Thanks, it means a lot coming from you." "Devin, why did you—" Zale turned away, obviously conflicted. I sighed, not sure what to say about that. I didn't know why I left him. Well, I did, the conflict of feelings, but I regretted it. "I'm sorry for what I said, Zale. I am." "I know," he muttered. We stood on the beach, our bodies so close we could almost touch each other. I wanted to touch him, but every time I thought of it, I always stopped myself. "I should get going. Have to open the shop," he said as he moved a bit further from me. "I'll see you around," I replied, though I really didn't want him to go. Zale ran down the beach, but before he left, he turned to me. "There's a beach party tomorrow evening. You're invited." I smiled. "It's a date." Heading back to the hotel, the emotions came forth again, conflicted and filled with frustration. I yearned for Zale and wanted him in my life. But were we compatible at this time? The next day, the beach party started right at sundown. Girls danced on the beach as a DJ played. Many of them surrounded Zale and he talked and flirted. I drank my cocktail, wondering if I should talk to him. "Do it, Dev, you're his ex, but that doesn't mean you have to hang around like some weird wallflower." That was true. After I got another drink from the bar, I approached. Immediately, Zale stood up. "Devin, there you are." "Hey, didn't want to bother you and the ladies," I said with a half smile. "Oh, these two? They're fine, trust me. I was looking for you in particular." The glint in his eyes said so much more. "Really?" "Yes, I wanted to talk to you, Devin." His tone implied something more. Zale extracted himself from the girls, much to their dismay, and he guided me away from the heart of the party. None of the girls bothered to follow. They didn't want to go too far, especially towards the rocky edges where we sat. Soon the party sat in the distance, and all that was around was the ocean and Zale. We sat down together, our knees touching. Zale took a deep breath and he turned to me. "Devin, I wanted to talk about what happened. When I first saw you, I didn't want to talk to you. It upset me that you came back into my life like that." I nodded. I know. I felt the same. I didn't want to bring up the old feelings. Believe me, I didn't either. But from the moment I saw you, it was like I couldn't ignore them. "Me too," I admitted. The emotions I felt for Zale came back like a tidal wave. Zale sighed and looked up at the sky. "It hurt when you said you didn't want to see me again. I knew you meant it. I'm sorry about that. I was angry back then, Zale. Mad that you wanted to run off like that. I had dreams, Devin. You understand that, right?" "I do. I did as well. Which makes me realize that I had everything wrong," I said in a low voice. I grabbed his hand and held it. Zale turned to me. "Zale, I never forgot about you. I know the past still hurts, but I want to say that I'm sorry for saying those words and hurting you back then. You don't have to forgive me, but just know that I mean it when I say I'm sorry." I expected Zale to leave, to go back to his life on the beach. The man had it made. Me? I worked a boring software development job. Instead, he smiled. "I forgive you, Devin. In fact, seeing you again brought up these feelings, and I don't want to ignore them." Before I could respond, he swooped in, capturing my lips. A ripple of emotions opened up inside me, and I kissed him back. He pulled me into his arms as we made out passionately on the rock. The only sounds were the waves crashing around us. It was heaven. It felt perfect. Zale pulled away and smiled. "I wanted to do that since I saw you again. Surprised you didn't give me mouth to mouth, I retorted. Maybe later, he winked. We shared another kiss again, and then the passion arose. As the party went on, Zale and I hooked up again on the beach. After it was over, we lay side by side. He turned and grabbed a couple of strands of my brown hair to play with it. Are you going to stay? Am I? I wanted to, but there was a job waiting for me back home. Sighing, I shrugged. I'm not sure. But you make a good argument for doing so. Good to know, he chuckled. He kissed me again, and more emotions sprouted. I wanted to stay and be with him. But was I ready to give up everything? 2 days later, Zale and I spent the next 2 days spending as much time as we could together. Volleyball games on the beach, drinks at the bar, and even dinner together. The entire time we flirted and shared kisses. It really felt like we never stopped loving each other. Maybe we never did. I wasn't sure if I was ready to pack up and live on the beach with him, though. Over here! Zale encouraged me to follow him. We swam underwater and soon came up in an underwater cave. The sunlight streamed in and sparkled, making it look absolutely beautiful. Zale swam to the edge and pulled himself up. I joined him, and we sat on the edge. It's beautiful here, I remarked. Yeah, it is. Neither of us said anything for a bit until Zale turned to me. He grabbed my hand, biting his lip. Listen, Devin. These last couple of days reignited my feelings for you. Whenever I'm around you, I feel happy. Like I'm complete. I feel the same, I said. It's like we never stopped feeling this way for each other. Zale frowned and looked down. Sometimes I do regret leaving you and going pro. I always wondered if I got another chance, would I take it? I can safely say that yes, I would. I'm glad you feel this way, I smiled. What about you? Would you? My thoughts raced. I wanted to say yes because that's what felt right. Still, I feared what might happen if I gave up my current life and moved here. If I had the chance, yes. Zale grabbed my arm and squeezed it. He pulled me into his arms, and I basked in the embrace. As we locked eyes, I saw the pools of emotions. I want to try again, Devin. I don't want to let these feelings go. I didn't want to either. I was scared of taking the plunge, though, to finally let go and move forward. Still, I couldn't deny the way I truly felt. I want this too. I feel we'd do well together. Yeah, we would, he smiled. We kissed again, hooking up in the cave. However, the entire time I felt the lingering regret and the burden of my feelings. We swam back before sundown. As the sky turned a bright orange, he held my hands. I'll see you tomorrow? I nodded. Yes, and I'll let you know what I want to do. I can't wait to hear. He kissed my lips and walked off. At that moment, I was sure of what I needed to do. The next day, I woke up the next morning, ready to give Zale my answer. The ringing of the phone roused me. It can't be. I looked at the contents. It was the office. I held the phone to my ear, my face falling as I heard the words. I was needed back at the office for an emergency business meeting. I pleaded, begging for them to put it a few days from now, but I had to go back. Fine, I'll be there this afternoon. Hurt, I grabbed my things and headed to the beach to see Zale before I got to the airport. He was already on the beach putting wax on his board. Our eyes met. His eyes widened like saucers. Devin! He reached over, catching his breath. What are you doing? His question pained me. I gestured to my suitcase. I need to go. I have a meeting. What about your answer? He asked, hopeful. That's the problem. I didn't know my answer. I'm not sure yet. I have to go. Oh, I see. So you're leaving this time. And I'm supposed to be okay with it. The hurt in his voice was quite clear. Zale, that's not... No, it's fine, Dev. Just do what you want. I've got a competition to prepare for anyway. Without another word, Zale went to his surfboard, ignoring me as he prepared to ride the waves. My whole life came undone the second I heard those words. I was about to lose him again, and there was nothing I could do. A week later, the meeting went off without a hitch, but the entire time I was focused on seeing Zale again. The meeting was with an investor, which required long hours and overtime. I tried to contact Zale, but he refused to answer my calls and messages. It's not that I blamed him. It was awful of me. If Zale didn't forgive me, I deserved it. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Your mind is somewhere else, isn't it, Devin? I turned and saw Shelley, the secretary, there. She smiled and I nodded. It's just all this paperwork. Your trip good? Yeah, very good, I replied, wincing slightly. So good I never wanted to come back. She rested some papers on the desk, looked up at me and smiled. If there's something that you need to do, then you should follow your heart, Devin. Shelley, what are you? She smiled. Just an intuition. With a small wave, Shelley disappeared. I sat there, completely overwhelmed. All I wanted was to go back to Zale and see him. My phone beeped and it was my boss, Martin. I have the offer of a lifetime for you. Please come to my office tomorrow morning. The next morning I went to my boss's office. Martin sat me down and he looked at me. Devin, you've been such a good employee that I want to promote you to the top. I'm retiring soon and I need a replacement. I sat there taking it in. Wait, you mean? Yes, Devin. I want to promote you to be the CEO of the company. This was unreal. The dream of a lifetime. It was something I worked towards. Wow, I'm grateful. Yes, we want you to run the company. However, there is a catch. A catch? What did he mean? Martin opened his mouth and immediately it all came flying towards me like a ton of bricks. You won't be able to take off vacation days for the first 2 years. I'm sorry, but the transition will require all of this. No, that meant I couldn't get to see Zale for 2 years if he wanted to see me at all. But sir, my vacation was cut short. Yes, and we will give you those days. But Devin, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Opportunity my butt. He wanted me to stay here and take over so he could live an easy life. I'm sorry, I can't. Why not? You're not tied to anyone. I am, I finally said, standing up. I love someone. He doesn't live in the area, and I want to go back to see him. We ended things abruptly. Martin scoffed. You can come here. I don't know why you have to. No, I'm going to see him. Listen, Martin, I understand you've been divorced for over a decade now, but my heart is there. It isn't here. That much was true. I stopped being in love with the company for a while. Sure, it was a dream job, but the company's vibes made it an ugly nightmare. Martin stood there, taken aback. Devin, you're making a mistake. I can fire you on the spot. Go ahead, I challenged, smiling. I wanted to quit anyway. Right now, I needed to see Zale, to right these wrongs and to see him once again. Without another word, I left his office and booked the first plane back to the beach where Zale was. It was time to make things right, to stay with Zale, the man I loved. The next day, it's hard to run in the sand. My legs kept shaking as I awkwardly ran through the sand. He had to be here. He just had to. I refused to go until I saw Zale. He was my everything, the guy I loved, the man I missed out on a chance with. But now getting this second chance, I had to take it again. Just then, a large wave crashed against the beach. Zale rode it like a pro, hanging 10 and moving about. As he got to the end, he landed on the soft sand and looked forward. There, our eyes met. I rushed forward, enveloping him in a hug. Zale hugged me back immediately. We stayed like this, holding each other tightly, never letting each other go. For a second, time stopped. It was just Zale and I, happy together. Zale pulled back and looked at me. Devin, what are you doing here? I shook my head, smiling. I'm not leaving. I'm staying here, and I love you. But what about your job? I shrugged. I'll find another. Something remote. Something that lets me stay here with you. You mean something to me. I missed my chance not just once, but twice already. Third time's a charm, right? Zale laughed. That is true. You're just in time then. I was about to practice for the surfing competition. I'd love to see it, I said with the widest smile. I kissed Zale. The whole world disappeared. It was just the two of us, happy as one. Holding him close, I basked in the touch, loving every second of it. Zale was my everything. He was the guy I loved, the one I always wanted, and, of course, the man I never wanted to let go. Conclusion. I moved to a remote life on the beach with Zale. It was different, but I loved it. Zale competed in multiple competitions and I watched him win trophies. He brought me up and introduced me as his boyfriend. It was magical. A year later, after winning a competition, he asked me to come on stage. Just as I did, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. It was the easiest yes of my life. We made it work. Despite the challenges in time, our love flourished, a light that never burnt out. The end. Have you ever reconnected with an old lover? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.